Welcome to the Delingpod with me, James Delingpod, and I know I always say I'm excited about this week's special guest, but before we meet him, a quick word from one of our sponsors. The gold price has been going up again. Why am I not surprised? I'm not a financial advisor, thank goodness, but I think at this time, in these dark times, you'd be mad not to have at least some physical gold and maybe some physical silver too in what you might describe as, if you're ambitious, your portfolio. Gold and silver, if you'd bought them when I first started talking about them, you'd have made a tidy profit by now. And if you'd bought them in the form of coins of sovereigns and you're a UK citizen, you wouldn't even have to pay capital gains on your profits because they count as legal tender, as I had to explain to my bemused accountant the other day. The place to go for physical gold and silver, you don't want paper gold and paper silver, the place to go is the Pure Gold Company. They will either deliver your coins or your bars to your door, direct to your doorstep, or they will store them for you in their vaults in London or in Zurich in Switzerland. You can also have gold as part of your pension. And if you want to sell it quickly, they will do so for you very quickly. So that's the Pure Gold Company. And you will find the hyperlink to their website at the bottom of this podcast because I'm part of their affiliate program. I'm not pushing their product because I think it's dodgy. I own gold, I own silver, and in the form of bullion, I think you'd be mad not to have them. I don't know where it's quite difficult storing them at home. I tend to go for the vault option. But yeah, if you've got a good hiding place, why not? Especially when it all kicks off and you're going to need something tradable to buy your potatoes and rice. Anyway, go to the Pure Gold Company using the affiliate link, hyperlink at the bottom of this podcast. Welcome back to the Delingpod, Ole Dammegard. It's Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, happy James Delingpod. How are you?
I think of you,
oh my God,
Ole, every time I look at my wife's newspaper and I see stories like New Orleans massacre by evil ISIS terrorist. And I think to myself, well, maybe something did happen and maybe even real people were hurt, but it certainly ain't as portrayed in the newspaper. Am I right to be suspicious? I mean, given that the New Orleans thing was the most recent one, should we just deal with that one first?
Yeah, it wasn't the most recent one because they're really going for it right now. So, but otherwise than that, I would say being suspicious is the least you can be at this point in history because it's like, come on, how many hundreds of the same crap over and over and over, the same theme, the same setup, the same. I mean, it's just, I'm like, sometimes I feel, please come hire me and I can show you how to do a better job because
you'd be really good actually. And I tell you what, you'd make a fortune. You could buy barley if they used you.
But I tell you, I'm not really interested in money, so I'm the wrong guy to try and bribe. But otherwise than that, no, because it's just like really, really, but indirectly, it's wonderful because it's sort of like they make it so bad that people are really starting to see through it in the thousands. And I mean, I've been trying to inform people for the last 45 years. Get a life, I would say. But otherwise than that, here we go again. So, New Orleans, terror hit the streets of New Orleans. A pickup truck. Oh my God. So, I mean, it doesn't take many minutes before you start looking. If you know what to look for, it's just screaming of the same propaganda stunt again. What we're looking at is marketing. These are marketing campaigns, but the product they're selling is not McDonald's, not even though these companies are involved in this type of organizations also, but what they're selling is fear. It is fear, 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 and fear. And so if you look on an international basis, this is a NATO operation, so it's more or less always in NATO countries, and they circle. It goes like in a circular motion like this. So there's never two terror attacks at the same day, ever, anywhere. It's always because it's the same group, many times that are moving around, setting it up. I call them the global tour of terror. And so that's also why well, we can come back to that, but you never have to fear a terror attack or a mass shooting on a rainy day, because they need a blue sky in the background so that they can film and set up more than one day at a time, because afterwards they need to blend the footage from the drill and the footage from the live location so that we think that, oh my God, this just happened. No, it happened the day before. And so I can go into details. But regarding this whole thing, what I always look for is, was there a drill? Because the drill is a dead giveaway. Every time there's an alleged terror attack and it's not a real one, which I would say is very rare, very, very rare with real ones, I look for the drill, because the drill is when they come to the location and they say, for your protection, we're going to have a security drill, or, normally like security drill or active shooter drill or anti-terror drill or whatever it is. The reason for that is to clear the area. So they come in and it looks more or less like a normal film setup. They use the same type of vehicles, the same setup. So you will see in the area, they will close off. The area is very often very easily closed off. So you will see that it's like there's a street that can very easily, just with closed for road work or something like that, they cut it off in one end and in the other, and suddenly they control that whole area, and we don't even know what's going on. Sometimes they use buses, sometimes they use trucks to just happen to stop or get a breakdown or whatever it is. But anyway, so in the drill, they close it off, and then they bring in, most of the time they if it's a bigger operation, they have so-called grip trucks. These are normally white trucks with no text, no nothing on the sides. In these trucks, you have everything from lighting to electricity to, if there's going to be explosions, then it's explosive, fireworks, pyrotechnics, clothing, makeup facilities, all of these things.
Yeah, fake blood.
Sometimes
obviously, loads of fake blood.
Depending on how much they make an effort. Okay. So also these are called moulage trucks. Also, they can be in military trucks, but it's this exact same setup. Then they have, if it's the same group that I'm normally tracking down, the ones that I call the global tour of terror, they fly in big C-130 military planes, and they come and land nearby. So most of the time there will be an Air Force base, a NATO Air Force base or US Air Force base, or a private strip, like a landing strip where there's no flight tower, so that they can come in after dark and leave without getting registered. Otherwise, it's in military areas so that they can control the documentation. Anyway, so they fly in with these big Hercules planes, if it's a big operation, and they bring everything. Normally, they're around 150 to 200 people, if it's a little bit of a bigger operation. And in that, you got crisis actors. These crisis actors are people, not very good actors at all, because all the good ones are already taken and used in TV and commercials and stuff. So they can't use them. So they have to use, the ones that have absolutely crap most of the time, really bad. But crisis actors, they got makeup facilities. They have also some of these vehicles on board of these planes. And they've got also catering facilities. So you have the bathroom facilities, because these things takes time. So it's just like a film set. So you'll see in the background, sometimes you see the toilet, these, what are they called?
Portaloos.
Yeah, portaloo. they're standing in the background. You can see, oh, it's this crime scene. Oh my God, and the flashing lights. And in the background, you got the toilet and the makeup facilities and the whole thing set up. You just have to know what to look for. And also, you got marketing agents, you got directors, you got photographers, you got lighting people. So they come on location. And the way that the people are transported to location is normally by the local buses. They use local buses because nobody really reacts to these buses. And so these are the buses that they will bring to location with crisis actors, with all of these other things, including these white anonymous trucks, which are the so-called grip trucks, that will bring whatever they need, inflated dead bodies or whatever is needed to make it look like a horror scene. This is also the way that they transport the people out from the location. The victims, you will see, they never go to hospital. Very rarely do they go to hospital. If they do, the hospital itself also has a drill and is part of the whole operation. But normally they're given these blankets, these silver blankets or gold blankets, and put on these buses and driven out back to the same airstrip, and then they take off in the dark so that we don't really see what's going on at all. But these, like I said, with the grip trucks and the buses, they are very often used also to cut off other streets, and they just park them there. They just stop them there. So you look at the area and think, no, it's just a bus. A bus is an anonymous thing that you don't really think of. It's just there. And so they use these as well for the whole setup. Then the drill is done the day before. And during the drill, they rehearse, they go through the whole setup, the whole theme. Also at that time, they cleared the area so this is why very rarely is it in a residential area. It's mostly in areas, sort of back streets or areas where offices and stuff, where they can just close stuff because of your security. You just have to leave and go away. So nobody can really see what's going on. And, so during the drill also, they take all of the high quality photos, these HD quality, incredible photos where the photographer, you have to think, my God, he was so lucky being on location. No, not at all. It's staged. And then they also have some of the footage, like live footage. It's always super blurry. Nowadays, when even the most horrible phones have very good cameras, somehow they manage to get blurry footage. I don't know how they do it, but it looks like an old VHS tape from an Austrian movie, from 73 or something like that. The reason why it's blurry is for us not to be able to identify who's actually in there. And then also during the drill, they do what I call the catwalk of death, where there's somebody, you had like a truck drove into the crowd. Oh my God, there's dead people everywhere. Okay. And somebody, it must be real, because somebody's just walking around among the dead bodies, and you see people are trying to revive them and stuff like that. Really blurry. You just see the back of the people. You very rarely see any ambulance personnel or police. It's just normal. And you also see that the crowd where the car was, it said it crashed straight into this crowd and was killing all of these. Yet all of the bodies are like way apart, like 5-10 meters to the side. So I don't know, did they just fly over there or whatever? And so that is taken also at that time. So one of the first thing I look at is the sky in the background. When you see footage from breaking news now, terror attack on London Bridge. Okay, check the background, check the sky, check the angle of the shadows, and you will see very, very, very rare. I haven't encountered any. I tell you, during all of these years, I do not think that I really found a real terror attack. It is inside jobs again and again. And I know this is very controversial to say something, but I put more effort into this than anyone I know over all of these years, and and it would be so much easier for me to say that one was real, that one was not. But I've gone on location on many of these places to find out, because I used to be a journalist. I go to the source to see what actually happened on my own. It's very scary, I tell you, because these operations, when they are inside jobs, the people that are then guarding the area afterwards, the people, the uniform one with machine guns and that, they're part of it. They're part of it, and their job is to make sure that individuals like this one stay the hell away, far away, so that it's not dangerous. Terrorists are not dangerous. They are dangerous. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So, anyway, so was there a drill in New Orleans? Yeah. There just happened to be like 300 police officers right there that evening. It's incredible. No, they were just running around, having a drink or whatever. And there's footage, dramatic footage. You got a whole bunch of police officers standing on standby on a street corner. Boom, it happens. And all of them run at the same time to location. How often do you see that? 300 police officers extra that night alone. And then the whole setup, it's just like low budget. God, give me a break. Bad. And then the footage you see with the American flag in the back and all the time in the middle. You see some footage also taken with a telelens saying that's where it happened. But if you go down on Google Maps and you compare the footage, it's completely manipulated. It's, you see the houses are not even in the right location. They just put it together like that to make it look more dramatic. So did it happen? Absolutely not. Please cut my arm off if I'm not correct. I tell you that.
Okay, so this is the interesting part. By the way, thank you for that. That's the most I've heard lots of your podcasts.
But can I just continue here, because we had Magdeburg in Germany. That's NATO for you. Oh, the exact same thing in Magdeburg. It's like, I can tell you, every time Christmas comes and people have a chance to enjoy life, they will hit you again and again and again. It's just wait for it. It will be around the 19th to 20th in Christian countries or countries that celebrate the 24th. And then in American or English speaking country, it will be on Christmas Day. They're so kind to really just mess it up so that we're, instead of enjoying us, we're getting freaked out. And so there are so-called Santa attacks, but actually it's inverted. It's Satan.
Yeah.
And so you had in, oh, come on, head, please activate. We had one was it in Virginia? And there was a young 15-year-old girl that just went mad. Oh my God. And her name was Samantha. But she went under the name of Natalie. Okay, Natalie, the Latin meaning of the word Natalie is Christmas Day. Do you see it's part of the operation? And then they showed photos. The photos they showed was from Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook in 2013. It's recycling crap just there to, oh my God. Magdeburg, the same, NATO. In Magdeburg, we have this car. Oh, this time it was a Saudi doctor. What the hell? They showed a photo, and then that when you see him getting arrested, it's not even the same person. They don't even look alike at all. But then again, in Magdeburg, go down Google Maps, you look at the whole area. I in my newsletter every month, I go into great detail. So please go to my website, lightonconspiracies.com or dammegard.com, and check it out, because then you can see for yourself. I try not to push it on people. I say, look here. So you look at that place where the Christmas market was, which was an exact copycat of the alleged truck attack in Berlin in 8 years ago, whatever that is. It's 17 or 16, 17, I think it was, where on the date, the 8th anniversary, there was one day in between, boom, this truck is said to have driven into a Christmas market in Berlin and killed all of these people. It was awful. Was it even possible? No. He had an 18-wheeler truck. The way the maneuvers, I'm an old truck driver, the way he maneuvered in that truck into the area, making like almost a 90-degree angle, turn to the right, and then a left one. You cannot, the rear of the truck will just go like this and would just crash all of these things on the side. You do not see that at all. And then he went in under, like there were all of these Christmas lights. They were hanging so low, and the truck managed to go under when you measure the truck, he would never have been able to go under all of these Christmas lights. But that's what happened. And then you see the truck stopped, very dramatic. But if you look, the truck was parked on the other side of completely intact bollards. The car would have crashed over them if the truck had gone the way it was said. Instead, it was reversed into location. Very nicely, neatly done. And then they just put a lot of crap in the street. Oh my God, terror attack. They took a Christmas tree and pushed it through the front window. Try and do that if you can with a Christmas tree. But it was there, so it got the whole Christmas theme. Excellent. And then you had the forensic team there with Christmas Father Santa hats on, the red thing, on location, so that the truck, they even made lighting so that it looked like a Christmas gift in gold. And then you had Christmas in front of it. And in the background, big Christmas stars, and then terror in Berlin. Absolute nonsense. And here we have the exact same thing. So you see in Magdeburg, let's look again, very easily closed off area. Magdeburg is not far from Berlin. And also the virus that the Marburg virus that they're warning about, this is part of the psychological thing, Magdeburg, whatever the name is, but it's very similar to that one. So here we have this car that is said to have just, for some bizarre reason, rammed straight into this crowd. So how do we know that? Well, there's CCTV footage. Have you seen the CCTV footage? It looks like a cartoon. It's not even real footage. It's like bizarre. And you got like in this Christmas market, it was a quiet little Christmas market. In the CCTV footage, in this cartoon type version, there's about 1,000 people. There's no space. They're standing like this, like trees in a forest, and the car just rams in through like that. You look at the crime scene afterwards. There are no skid marks. There's no blood. There's nothing. So what I'm saying to you is nothing happened in New Orleans, in Magdeburg, in Virginia. Nothing happened. It is fear porn served for Christmas Eve in the countries that celebrate the 24th, and Christmas Day. And then even New Year's Eve, that's when they hit another one. So it's like they're really going for it. Sorry if I ramble on here.
No. I was going to say, before you ramble on a bit more, I was going to say that is the fullest account I think I've heard you give of exactly how the team works, which is really interesting. And as you say, you've been researching this stuff for 45 years. You've got their number. You know how they roll. You can almost predict now. In fact, you have predicted, I think, when some of these events are going to happen.
77.
And
my last name has become a verb. The verb Dammegarding is to find the hidden clues, because they actually they hide clues about upcoming attacks, believe it or not, in the forensic evidence. And my last name has become a verb. That verb is to find the hidden clues and expose upcoming attacks and stop them. So hashtag Dammegarding is exactly that.
Because that's part of the deal, isn't it? That their satanic notion of karma means that they have to tell you what they're going to do. They show you so they give you these clues so that it absolves them from karmic responsibility, if you like, because they've told you, they've showed you, and if you didn't get the message, then that's your problem. But they did tell you.
I tell you, James, it was in the fall of 2014. I had no idea about this. I had no clue. And then there was this anonymous insider that was somehow working with these type of things, but feeling bad. And he contacted me anonymously and said, I followed you for years. You're doing great, but you're missing out on the hidden clues. And I was like, what? the hidden clues in the forensic evidence. I had no idea what he was talking about. And then he explained that, just like you said, they actually do it. And I said, why would anyone do such a stupid thing? That is just like weird. And he said, just like you said, it's because of the law of karma. They're very, very aware of it, and they're terrified of it because they're up to no good. They're just doing bad stuff all the time. So the way they see it is, if they show us, even in subtle ways, what they're going to do, what they're going to hit the next time, and we do not react, then the way they see it, we indirectly consent, and then the bad karma is on our shoulders, not theirs. This is also the reason why you always have, before there's an attack on some innocent country, you have a press conference from Downing Street or the White House saying, we are planning to do. They're telling you what to do. And if people don't react, then, well, we told you. And then they do it. And then the bad karma is on ours too. We are part of this whole thing. So it was only because he said that. And to start with, I mean, I thought he was full of it. I didn't know that he was serious. And then it was in February 2015. That was the first time when I saw that there were 4 that seemed to be connected to each other. And when the 2 first happened, I was like, oh my God, is it possible? And that was the first time I ever went out on international radio warning about an upcoming attack, because the signs that I found, I mean, I had no clue. And I said that too. I don't know. This is what I've been told. This is what I found. I don't know. But if that's correct, they will hit Copenhagen on the 14th of January. It turned out that a lot of people went to that place that evening because there was a drill. I was asking, is there a drill? Because there had to be a drill there. And so a lot of people were on location with cameras, just standing waiting. So as far as I know, they had to go under the radar. And then on the 14th of February, the exact same location, the exact time, but 1 month later, and on Valentine's Day. That is also one of these dates that they love, connected to death. This whole romance thing with Valentine's, that's Shakespeare for you. It is actually a day of death. There were 3 Valentines that were executed on that day many, many years ago. So that was the first time when I hit one, when I said it, and it happened. I thought, oh my God, because the next one that was lined up was Florence in Italy, NATO. And so I went out big time, warned it. People went there. And then the next day in the newspaper, they said, failed ISIS attack here, this whole thing, blah, blah, blah. ISIS is their operation as well. This whole thing about a terrorist group, absolute BS. It is their woof to keep it going.
Yes, actually, on that subject, have you ever looked into the people in orange jumpsuits having their heads chopped off? Was that real, or was
God,
that?
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. No, and no. This is the way it works. They need something to scare you with, some kind of bulldog out there to woof, to create a problem, to get us fearful, so that we will accept their solution. So they create these outer threats instead of us looking for the real threat, which is at them. Instead, they distract us with this outer enemy. And in this case, they started with when they managed to get the Russians out of Afghanistan, they had all of these Mujahideen warriors that they had trained in the CIA, equipped and with weapons and everything like that. And so in the end of the 80s, they were like, what are we going to do with all of these warriors? I mean, they're just, they're trained, they're lazy. Why don't we use them? And so they turned all of these individuals that they had trained against the Russians into what the first version of this whole thing went under the name of Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is Arabic and it means database. It means database. It doesn't mean terrorist organization. It means database. It's the name of the CIA's database over their assets in Afghanistan. So they turned that into like this alleged monster. Most of the time we're talking private contractors going out and creating mayhem, a problem so that we get scared, so that the media can pump this out to us saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then they get away with their solutions, which is the whole idea. The solution is always there from day one. It's just how can they get us to accept it? How can we be fooled enough to say, yes, please bring that solution in? Because that solution is every time something bad for us. Our liberties, our freedom out the window, more and more cameras, more and more surveillance, more and more. I mean, look at the airports nowadays and train stations, almost all of it. If you ask me, based on fake terror, I have not, like I said, found one real terror attack. So all of these things are built on absolute lies, and they're making billions, and we are locking ourselves in and accepting it. It's like, if you ask me, this is what they can get. That's it. Every time I drive by one of these facial recognition, I'm like this. Fuck off. So, because it's built on lies. It's not true. It is not, what I'm indirectly saying is we live in a wonderful world. The world is wonderful, but we are being terrorized by like a cancer growth that have sort of infiltrated them into so-called top positions of power. There's so few, and they're messing with so many of us. So,
but I think you've said before.
James, can I just say, very sorry, because first it was Al Qaeda, then after a while, like after a few years, people weren't getting scared anymore. Before you could like really, oh, Al Qaeda, then it didn't really work anymore. So they had to upgrade it. So how did they upgrade it? They just renamed it. So suddenly Al Qaeda, where did they go? They just disappeared overnight, and in came ISIS. Then when we started looking at ISIS, they said, no, it's ISIL actually. No, it's Danish. No, it's IS. So they kept shifting the name. It's the same unit of destruction. And that unit was created by the US State Department, sponsored by Saudi and sponsored also by Toyota. If you look at any photo, I challenge you, find any photo of ISIS and there's a vehicle in it, it's a Toyota in the hundreds. Toyota, always new cars. So indirectly, it is product placement, good advertisements. So I had a friend contact Toyota saying, why on earth are you selling all of these vehicles to the worst threat that the world has ever seen, apparently? And they answered back and said, we have not sold anything to ISIS at all. We sold it to the US State Department. And there you go, straight from the horse's mouth. I have it. I have a screenshot of the whole communication. They said no. And very often you'll see the ISIS tents, like also these beheadings. If you look at the body proportions of these, when they chop the head on things like that, very often you got like 4 different shadows, meaning there's lighting, not normal light, but lighting, and it's very often, if not always, in front of green screens. There's never anything in the background that can identify where they are. And then you have the body proportions of the one that is chopping the head of the person. They're European-sized people. It is not Middle Eastern at all. They're not short. They're not like this at all. These are big, very often with US military tattoos on their arms. It is absolutely just baloney. I have from also a lot of footage from inside these photo shoots when they did these things. It's so absolute. It's terrifying. If it was true, terrifying, but it's not.
So you've had inside information from the shoots?
Yeah. I have.
What did they tell you?
They're showing they're filmed inside a film studio where it's with a green screen. The whole thing is set up. You got cameras, you got lighting, you got directors, and and you see the guys always. I tell you, if somebody was going to cut your throat, I think you would be quite terrified. Maybe you would wet your pants. Maybe you would beg for your life. Maybe you would be shaking, anything like that. One you normally see is like they're just standing there waiting. Can we please get this over with? I'm really longing for a cup of coffee. And cut, throat, and then cut, action, and cut. And so how could they amp it up? Because after a while, we didn't get too scared of these beheadings. By the way, have they stopped? They just disappeared over Corona, COVID, all of these things. When that operation kept the fear up here, there was no need for ISIS anymore. So ISIS just disappeared. Where did they go? It's amazing. They're no longer. But all of the weapons that ISIS was using in the Middle East was then transported, and the personnel there was then transported up to Ukraine. So you will see the exact same weapons are being used there, but now they have military uniforms looking like either Ukrainian or Russian soldiers in the background of the same type of footage.
You're
We're
not saying
looking
that
at
the is the Ukraine thing faked as
oh
well?
God. Have you seen Wag the dog? Have
Well,
you
yes,
seen
yes, I
them?
have. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I stopped following the whole Ukraine thing after about a month when I started seeing it was just absolutely bizarre. So much footage was used from 2014 when there was an alleged uprising or there were these violent things happening in Ukraine. They were just recycling them. Then you had a lot of footage from a video game called Armor 3. They even have now they charged what do you call it? They sued CNN and other TV channels for using their video footage from the video game. It's not even real footage. Then you had we had some of these horrible things that happened in Kiev. They were shooting in the dark like that. No, that was from a big gun show in Amarillo, Texas. You also have so much of this footage. It's not even real footage. When they went to Kiev, I mean, in the beginning, it was awful. I mean, it looked absolutely awful, and we got footage on the news saying, "Look here in the Kiev, it's all of these horrible things are happening." I went in, these CCTV camera. There are websites where you can see CCTV cameras all over the world, and there were also cameras in the square of Kiev where these horrible things were said to happen. I looked live footage there, live footage. It said from on the news. There was nothing happening at all on the CCTV cameras.
I don't think that part will come as a surprise to anyone who's been. It's very clear that the news reports are faked. You've got somebody crouching behind a wall, apparently under fire, and then you see the babushka wandering with her shopping, nearby. Clearly not. So I get all that, but surely you're not suggesting that the entire war is faked. I mean, real Ukrainians are being kind of killed in the meat grinder, aren't they?
Of course, but who's doing it? This is the whole thing. But listen, James, I feel that at this point, it feels like I'm all over the place, that I'm just pointing in every single direction saying fake, 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 fake. I would very much more like if we go into more specific areas or more specific details, or we can focus on something, because I hear myself. But what I would like to say is I've been interviewed more than 1,300 times. On my website, you can find very, very detailed breakdown of every single incident that I'm talking about, every single one. So, yeah.
Can we just go back to briefly, because I think we've dealt with it pretty well, to New Orleans, because something happened after New Orleans, which always happens, I find, when I'm totally with you, but there's always somebody who says, for example, on my Telegram channel, somebody's been on it since the beginning, who I trust, based in I think New Orleans as a medic, and she said, "James, you're always calling out these conspiracies, and I normally agree with you, but I work in hospitals in New Orleans, and they are definitely treating casualties from this event." And I sort of gave a reply. I mean, I possibly the reply you'll give me. No, tell me what you would say to that.
I would say that it's very possible that she's correct. There are different type of attacks. There are different type of so-called false flag operations. There are where you have a real attack, but where it's somebody that is doing an attack on the population of that place. Let's say that a car drives into a crowd and really injures people. But it's the driver, if it's a false flag, is not the one we're being told. There will be a patsy that will be blamed for it for some psychological reason, if they want to aim the suspicion against a certain country or whatever that is. It will be some kind of a person that will active very consciously and part of an operation, drive into the crowd and injure people to get the emotional impact of that whole thing. That it's like a military action against the population. Okay, so in these cases, people really get hurt. Then you have where people, when it's completely staged, where absolutely nothing happens, where it's crisis actors 100%. So that's a completely different type, but the result is the same. And then you got what I call hybrids, where you got, for instance, when they blew up the government building in Norway, you had on one side of the building crisis actors, and on the other side of the building, you had real victims. So it was like a mix, a hybrid of them. So it's very hard to know sometimes what is actually happening. So the New Orleans one, I haven't looked into it deeply enough to say one or the other. But what I try to is contact people on location, like your friend here, and really listen to her, and also say, but also find out what exactly is it that she has seen. Because, you know, for instance, there was this very brutal stabbing of a woman in Sweden, and that made massive headlines because she was out walking her dog. It was a small little town in Sweden, and she was being stabbed by somebody unknown. So it shook the south of Sweden, or quite a lot in Sweden there, also because they were indirectly blaming on foreigners and so on. So I had somebody go to that hospital and the police station in that small little town because I had a friend living there. So they went there and said, "Dear Mr. Doctor, hello, could we please just have a comment or look at the reports or whatever of this incident?" And the doctor said, "I'm not really sure, but I mean, she didn't come here. She must have been taken to another hospital because she did not come here." Then they went to the police station and asked there, "Is there any reports?" And the police said, "No, she must have gone somewhere else because here we don't have any reports." But did it happen? They asked both in the hospital and the police, did it happen? And they said, yeah. And so my friends asked them, "How do you know?" "Well, I saw it on the news." And so, do you see? So it's like even the hospitals, when they see it on the news, or also you can have like one part of the hospital is closed off for that incident. Very often there's a drill in the hospital before. Many of these big ones, like at the Stockholm truck attack and stuff, there were multiple drills. One drill for the police, one drill for the hospitals, one drills for media, and then all of that was brought into this alleged attack. But what they do is normally is that, for instance, you see people in police uniforms on location. Are they the people that should be there? More or less every single time, it's not. They look the same, they're using the same uniforms, but when I've been around asking the police in the areas, so you're working at this precinct, were you there that evening? Every single one said, "No, that exact evening or that day, I was not." "So where were you?" "I was on a conference. I was being sent here. There was a transport of prisoners. There was this accident. We went there. There wasn't any accident, but I wasn't there at the time." So even, for instance, you had the alleged truck attack in Stockholm. In the police station, I've been there. This is a big station, and so many police officers were running around in the street around that attack. This was a massive big thing. They even have a massive big photo in the entrance of the police station of two police officers running around, one with a gun in his hand, running around looking for this guy. So I asked them, "Were you there?" "No." "Were you there?" "No." "Were you there?" "No." "Were you there?" "No." "Who are the police in that photo?" "That is from your police station. It is your precinct." And they said, we don't know. So how can you even have the photo there? Why are you so proud of it? It's not even your guys. Who are they? We don't know. So the normal police is normally called to the side like this. They're put there to take care of traffic, to make sure that nobody gets into the crime scene area and the whole thing is cordoned up. That's where the normal police are put. And the normal police, trustworthy, good guys that would do a great job at a crime scene like that, are called away. And instead we have these people that appear in uniforms. They're ambulance drivers, firefighters, that are just there. How do we know that they're firefighters? Because they're using the uniform. Well, how do you know they're ambulance drivers? They're using the uniform. But when you look at, for instance, you had the Westminster Bridge attack, which was one that I predicted 2 months before it happened. You have all of these ambulances parked in a way that is unbelievably clumsy. What they're doing is they're closing off the area. I've asked police, ambulance drivers, I've said, please look at the aerial footage. Is that a normal way of parking? They said, if we park like that, we'll get fired right away because we're blocking the traffic. All of that would just be, and all of these ambulances that are there, do you know where the hospital was? It was like 150 meters on the side of the bridge. That's where they should have been brought. Or you see the victims. Where do they bring them? Do they bring them there? No, they bring them into the Marriott Hotel on the other side of the road. Instead of bringing people on stretchers and stuff into the hospital, they're taken into the hotel on the other side. We're looking at an illusion. This is the thing. It's an illusion of terror.
I was thinking about that the other day. And I remember at the time, there was you probably forget the details now, but there was a police officer called P.C. Palmer who was allegedly stabbed at Westminster Bridge. And a hero MP came to performed mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on him. Now, at the time, the name meant nothing to me because he was just a kind of backbench MP. But it's Tobias Ellwood. And Tobias Ellwood is in it up to the neck in, he is he the one that's actually in, oh my goodness. He is the Lieutenant Colonel in charge of 77th Brigade, the disinformation, misinformation branch of the military, which is designed to put out stories like this one. So,
it's James, you cannot make this up.
No.
It's like when you see people that are key people in one incident or event, like this guy, who suddenly was a hero.
Yeah.
Follow that person's career, and you will see it goes like this, boom, straight up. And they get into key positions of power for the next operation. They're loyal to the course and absolutely duping the public into believing something. Do you know, I mean, like when we're talking about not being able to make this crap up, like, okay, so when the thing happened at the Westminster Bridge, not the London Bridge, the Westminster Bridge attack, there was one guy that filmed some of it from inside a cab. You know, once again, look at the sky. It was not the same sky as the day when it happened, when this filming was done. And you have people lying on the bridge and so on. Were they lying where the car drove? No, they were lying out in the street. But otherwise than that, who filmed it? It was a member of the Bilderberg group, a Polish delegate from the Bilderberg group who just happened to film. What are the chances? I'm just asking, what are the chances? What are the chances? And I mean, what I look is like, okay, this guy, he said he drove across the bridge. He passed up on the pavement. There's a big road sign there where you cannot pass without crashing into the road sign. Somehow he managed. I measured it with the exact model of the car. The car could not pass. but it did. Anyway, so he drove down, boom, 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 boom. He set up to killed all of these people, and then he crashed into the wall outside the parliament. Okay, so you look at the damages to the car. So instead of speculating, I mean, I can have opinions and speculate, but that means nothing. I contacted people that have been working in the police for many years when it comes to traffic accidents. I did not tell them where I got the photo from. I just showed the front of the car and I said, how did that car get damaged like that? Was there any impact with a deer, an elk, people, a wall, a house, or whatever? They said, well, at least no people, because there's no injuries that could or sort of impact the type of damages, like the hood would have been pressed in. If you hit someone, you hit them on the leg level. With a car, it wasn't a big car, so the person would fall and hit the hood and the front window. Here we see no damages at all. Instead, the damages to the front of the car was from an impact into like some kind of wall. And then when they take away the car, there's no injuries to the wall. But there was this guy with a big wooden, piece of plywood, like several square meters big. As soon as the car hit, he went up, or when they pulled the car out, he put this plywood thing so you couldn't see the wall. Who was that? Who is normally walking around in the center of London with a piece of plywood that size, just waiting for something to happen, and then just put it right there so we can't see the injuries to the wall? But then afterwards, when they cleared the area, not a scratch, nothing. Do you see, what I'm looking at is like Farmer Brown logic. 1 + 1 = 2. If something happens, it has a sequence and it has a result of the actions carried out. If a car drives into a wall, there will be marks in the wall. There will be damages to the wall. Come on. If the car is messed up like that.
Yes. Okay, so just while we're on the Elwood theme, clearly that man is dodgy as, I mean, just beyond dodgy. But okay, and he's a name. There must be a certain level of politician. There must be a certain level you reach in politics where I mean, if you're Home Secretary, for example, you would definitely you'd know about this stuff because you'd have to be told, wouldn't you? It couldn't go on under your nose without you being told about it.
These operations are always completely compartmentalized, so people know only their little part. Otherwise, it's for security. It's like all black ops or military operations are made like that, but also to protect themselves from blackmail. If somebody knows the bigger picture, knows too much, suddenly they can start blackmailing you. So people are only informed about their specific task in this whole thing. And for many years, when I was in Sweden, I was digging into the alleged assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister, which was so obviously not according to the official narrative. I mean, that made no sense whatsoever. And I was like, after I spent 12 years intense digging into that case, and then 30 years, and I've written a book, 1,000 pages almost, about it. But what I was like, how come that no one in media or in the government or in the police, why are nobody saying anything? Because this information, I was part of a group where they printed a little newspaper called Palme News, about this very, very detailed information, explosive, truth-backed, incredible, made by a former journalist from one of the major newspapers, but he was like a pit bull terrier, a real journalist. Anyway, that newspaper was sent for free to every single one in the Swedish parliament, to the king, to the head of the police, and what was the reaction? Silence, absolute silence. There was never to this day silence. It's just silence. Okay, so I was very confused. And I was a young journalist at the time, and I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And then I spoke to the head of the National Custom Office, who he was up there in society, or he used to be, and he was very concerned about what was going on in Sweden. So he was part of this group trying to find out what actually happened. And so one day he said, please, my friend, come sit here. You are very naive. And I said, yes, I'm sure I am, but please tell me, because I don't get it. And he said, you have to understand how things are played out, not only in Sweden, but in most places in the world. You have a level where things are decided. It's often behind the scenes. Then underneath that level, you have the people we see, like prime ministers, president, all of these people. They are just there, not as powerful individuals, but they're chosen for their ability to obey orders, and they have to look good in media. They are not the real ones that makes the decisions. I was like, what? And then he said, in government and in all of these places, to get to above a certain level, you have to be part of the gang. You are not let in. You are not let in on the ball game if you are not part of them. That is why you get invited into the Freemasons, or these parties, the Epstein parties, all of these type, or Jimmy Savile, or P. Diddy is another one of these sort of like pimp individuals that are organizing these parties where people get corrupted. They're not aware many times that when they get in among the big boys, that they're actually sort of lured into an ambush where they're being filmed, where they're being taped, where they're doing it. But after that, once they got you by the balls, if you are loyal, they will let you in. And that's where the whole thing, what we see, is being played out. So he said, no one on that level is not corrupt.
Right.
They're all of them, because otherwise they wouldn't be there. All the good guys, their career stops there. And if you see somebody who's really like, I'm going to make a change, they go like that. Really, if they really make a change, suddenly there's a car accident, or there's this, suddenly he left his computer. There was 15,000 pedophile photos in the computer, and the computer was left on when he left home, his office, and this cleaner found it on, blaring with all of these kid pornographic movies. He was just standing there. Oh my God. And his reputation forever destroyed. So to get up into that, no way. So I never listen to a politician, never ever, but I never listen to anyone actually. But what I do is I see the careers, how the careers changed. Like this individual, I remember him because this hero, I mean, all the medical staff of the ambulances were taking a step back when he was saving this guy. It's like, really? And what did they do? They took off his shoes and put his bare feet up in the air. I mean, it's just bizarre. The whole thing is just completely bizarre, but it was there to make him a hero.
Yeah.
If I remember right, he had a brother that died in the war, in the Falkland Wars or something like that. So they managed to get that into the whole thing as well. And
was he not killed? But he wasn't killed in Bali, was he? Or was that somebody else?
There was something connected to another.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing with Bali, that you got a monument in London of the Bali bombing. That is so bizarre. I don't understand that at all.
Well, it was really bad. It was really important to have a memorial to remind us every day.
It's very strange. It's very strange. But otherwise than that, so when something happens, you have to look at the key people. Who are they? Well, I love it, because like if something happens in NATO countries, always NATO countries, the ones stepping up at the press conference, you can just say, he's in, she's in, they're in. These people, maybe sometimes because they've got them by the balls and they're forced to do it. Otherwise, right away you got, here are some 4 key players. Or you got, sometimes there's this police chief or something, he's standing looking really scared and like that. You see this anonymous guy in the background. That's the handler. Look in these guys that stand in the background, like they're not bodyguards. They're there to just, if you say one wrong word, we're gonna, So look at the people in the background, and then you have these people doing the job in the front because they have to, because, yeah. Anyway, so when you look at these individuals, they're all corrupt, according to what he said. And I've never found anyone who's not corrupt. I wish it would be wonderful. So I've never voted in my whole life.
No. And if you and I became politicians, we'd soon get offed.
That was, yep. I mean, yeah. I'll tell you another one. No, please, James.
No, go on. Tell me this other thing.
Okay, so I had a beautiful, beautiful friend called Charlotte Isabit, who died a few years ago. She was one powerhouse of a woman, and she was the secretary for Roosevelt, I think. She was working her way up like that. And then under the Reagan administration, she was offered this top job as one of the top people for the educational system in the US. And she was like, whoa, this is amazing. And she said, I mean, she was happy to get the job, but she was like, why did you pick me? I don't get it, because there's a lot of people that are more qualified than I am. No, we want you. And so she said, happy days. I would be happy to do it. Okay, so she moved to Washington. I've done many interviews. You can find them on whiteandconspiracies.com. Charlotte Isabit. Anyway, so she went to this big office building not far from the White House, and she was offered this incredible office and welcomed, with roses and presents and stuff like that. And she was like, oh my God, thank you so much for making me feel so welcome. Now let's start working. Let's do some, And they said, just go have some lunch with some friends. Maybe you like to play golf or something like that. Just feel free. And she was like, what? She didn't get it at all. So the first day went, second day, third day, she was like, I thought I was here to make a difference. No, not at all. And every time she asked, it was just like some nonsense thing, go do something, So she got this very strange feeling of filling a chair, but not having anything there to do. So one day she was really bored, and she was walking around in this big office. Everything was emptied out, except one, what do you call it, these document cabinet type of thing, folders.
Filing cabinet, yeah.
Folder cabinet.
Filing cabinet.
Exactly, filing cabinet. And that was locked, but it was not locked well. So she opened it, and it was packed with documents. So she thought, okay, great, here's somewhere to start so I can sort of get myself into what needs to be done. What she found was mind-blowing. It completely terrified her, because in these documents, she saw that from the 40s and onwards, there was this very clear plan on how to destroy education, not only in the US, but in the Western world, where they wanted to replace valuable knowledge and spirituality with absolute crap that is just pump your brain full with nonsense. They wanted to get drugs into the families at the youngest age possible. They wanted to destroy the family structure. They wanted to destroy religions. They wanted to, for people this was in the 80s. They were already talking about with the internet and how to hook people up with mobile phones and that whole thing to completely destroy education. She was terrified. She went home to her husband, who was actually a member of the Skull and Bones, but a good guy, apparently. I don't know, but that's what she said. And she said, have you seen this? It's unbelievable. He said, yeah, everybody knows that. He said, what do you mean everybody knows that? Yeah, it's common knowledge, among these people. So and he said, don't talk to anyone. Just do your thing, have your coffee, play your golf, shut up and be happy, more or less. So she said, this is so not happening. So what she did was she started having lunch with a girlfriend of hers. And so she bought two identical briefcases. And so the girlfriend got one and she had the other one. So she filled it with documents. They had lunch and then they swapped briefcase under the table. Then they got hold of a photocopying machine. So the girlfriend went home with all of the documents, took all of the copies, bip, 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 and then brought them back. And then they swapped like that until in the end that the whole thing was copied and saved. And then she wrote a book while sitting on that power position. And it's called The Dumbing Down of America. You can find it online for free. She gave it for free. The Dumbing Down of America, where she in great detail describes this is it. This is it. And if you look at, I don't know anything about the educational system in England, and yet I do. I don't know anything about it in Finland, and yet I do. I don't know anything about it in Sweden, and yet I do. Because it is the same agenda to destroy real knowledge, to destroy. And then she was threatened. Her son was shot. He survived, but he was shot, almost dead. And she lived up into her 90s under a lot of pressure and stress and stuff, and still stood in the truth. Absolute magnificent woman. But what I'm saying is there's so many different levels to this whole thing which is going on that you have to become aware of to understand the bigger picture.
I'm so glad that you told me that story, because you almost didn't, and that's really interesting. Now, I've got to just ask you another question. This always comes up every time I do a podcast with you. I always get shit from people, because there are definitely out there people who just listen to this stuff and they go, I can't, and they'll always come up with a reason why they don't believe what you're saying is true. And I find the number one, and I sort of gave a sort of example with the New Orleans hospital. There's another one. So on the day of the New Orleans thing, it was on the front page of the newspaper, which I don't read, but which my wife does. And the wife says to me, "What do you think about this terrible thing in New Orleans?" And I said, "Oh yeah, it's terrible, isn't it?" And she says, "I know what you think. You think it's all fake, don't you?" And I said, "Well," she said, "You're so predictable." So anyway, a few days later, she is talking to one of her friends, and really? And it turns out that her friend's best friend's son's best friend is one of the victims of the attack. And then sure enough, it appears in the newspaper, in the Daily Mail. And the guy is related to Tiggy Leg Burke, who was Prince Charles's, who was the nanny for Prince Charles's children. And there are pictures of him, and young sort of upper class chap. And my immediate thought was, well, what are the chances of a young upper class chap who's related who's related to the nanny of Harry and William? What are the chances? But then I think about, did he die? Didn't he die? Where would he go if he didn't die? How do they? Because I mean, he must have loads of friends and family who would know about him. How does it work?
It is in this incident, like I said, this New Orleans, I haven't looked into it deeply enough to be able to answer about this specific individual. Yeah. What I know is that sometimes people are taken out, but killed for other reasons. So they're hidden in a group of victims, but the real one that they want to get is this one, and then they sort of camouflage it behind a terror attack. I don't know about this individual. Then other times you have no deaths at all. I've been on location trying to find where did they live? This is where they lived. I went there. I spoke to the neighbors. They said, yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, he was living right here. Did you ever see him? No. Where did he live? I don't know. How do you know he lived here? I saw it in the news. so we're back to sometimes there are phantom identities that are created. I'm not referring to
Yeah,
your individual,
sure.
but many times actually, these phantom identities are created. They're called legends. The agencies like CIA and so they do it for breakfast almost. Create a legend. It's a non-brainer. Do you know where they create phone bills and electrical bills and addresses and stuff? But just a little back, they also fake Facebook accounts, but they normally just go like 3-4 months back, and then very few friends. And you'll see the friends that are around there are similar accounts also, with very few friends, with only go a slight back. So when you really start looking into these things and instead of just scrolling through it, if you really start digging, you very often come to like, what on earth? Like there's this dead end. And for instance, I went right after the Bataclan massacre, alleged massacre in Paris. I went there. Very scary, because that one was supercharged with people, guards around it that were really securing the location. So spooky to say the least. But anyway, I got in touch with people around there, and also I got contacted by people that were friends of victims and so on. And so many times I've said, please, can you let me get in direct touch with the witness? Can I please get in touch with the family? Can I please get in touch with? Never, ever, never, ever has that happened. And these are cases where you would think that friends and families of these victims would be craving for somebody that would try to find out what actually happened, that would be sort of encouraging clearance or some kind of closure or something. Not at all. But every time I hear, it's like, well, I knew the guy, or I knew her. Okay. Did you ever meet her? No, she was actually my brother's sister's hairdresser's gardener's cousin's son, but I know for sure that he died. Okay, so can you get me in touch with a gardener who's no, and I never get all the way there. So it's like, what is going on? Then you have another one, which sometimes these victims are not fake identities, but they're people that are belonging to one of these agencies, working for the MI6, MI5, CIA. I mean, all of these DIA things, where people are offered to relocate for a certain amount of time. Normally that's 6 years. So they take part of one of these operations. They're nicely rewarded, and they're giving a life on Jamaica for like 6 years or whatever, and then they return. For instance, you got there was this film director that was said to be murdered at the mass shooting in Copenhagen in 2015. Well, he lives in the same address. He moved back. It's like, and nobody is reacting. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, he was even on Facebook, and then his sister says, "Is this clever to be here?" And then the account stopped. It's like they're so arrogant. It's like in your face, and also so they know that they're untouchable, that they will never, nothing will ever happen to them.
Has the film director guy gone back to making films? I mean, is he that brazen?
That I don't know, but I found him on Facebook and I was like, oh my God, it's him. It's him. Because when I went there, I predict that was the first one I ever predicted, that one in Copenhagen. And then I did a big presentation at the Open Mind Conference in Copenhagen talking about that specific also. And afterwards, his best friend came up to me and said, "Is he dead?" And I was like, "You're his best friend. You should know." And he said, "I don't. It was just so weird. It was just so I'll give you another example of how these things works also. Sometimes you got like an organization or something that is really starting to make a difference for the better. When organizations or groups are starting to make a difference for the better, they will be seen as a threat. Okay, so infiltration will happen. That's why I'm a one-man band. I never get involved with anything like that, because if it's not big egos, then this is what happens, that it somehow
Yeah.
get
Amen.
infiltrated. So normally what happens is that there will be a group of 2 or 3 people that officially didn't know each other that comes to this organization. They're super nice people. They're so efficient. They're so amazing at what they're doing. So they become very central. They enter into this organization about 1 year before anything happens. They're there as sleeping assets. Then because we're talking about almost like a chess play, sometimes we have all of these things on standby, and then depending on what needs to be done, poof, something happens there. Had something else been needed, it would say poof over there. Okay, so something happened. Boom. Okay, horrible, murder, slaughter, all of this thing. And it was specifically that loved person that everybody cherished and was beautiful with these photo shoots. They're very often young and beautiful. If they're men, you will always see with a 6-pack. If they're women, they're adorable. Anyway, so they're loved. So it's very tragic. Then when they die, the family that are there will leave within a couple of weeks after it happened, because they just can't take it emotionally. They cannot be there anymore. They have to go. And so they disappear, and nobody knows where they go. The family around them, part of the operation. This is the thing. They move in as a unit, they carry out the operation, and then they exit. And then you can't find them. If you try and track them down, you can't find them. Very often because they were not the real identities. They were assets coming in with a task. They got activated and boom, they went out. How do I know these things? Because I know people in the CIA who have told me a lot of these black ops. I try to avoid guessing. I try to go to the source. How do you do it? How is this done? What is that? What is that? How come that this happened? This is how I learned these things.
Yes, you've mentioned before the story about Dulles taking somebody past a village in Greece, I think, and pointing it out and saying,
yeah, it was the head of the CIA, Alan Dulles, and he was driving around with Fletcher Proutsey, who was part of special operations in the Pentagon. He's the guy that is called Mr. X in the JFK movie. A man that I really admired. He became a whistleblower. I've learned so much from this guy. He is really the guy that opened up this whole door of secrets for me, for someone like myself to understand. And anyway, they were driving around in Greece, of all countries, NATO. And Alan Dulles was just pointing at this little town. And he said to Fletcher, "Do you know what that is?" And Fletcher said, "No, is it sort of like a holiday resort or something?" And Dulles said, "No, all ours. They're all ours." Sleeping assets, meaning grandfathers, dogs, children, women, photographers, farmers, whatever, all of them, theirs, on standby to be activated. So whatever do you need? Well, we need a photographer, we need a car mechanic, we need a bus driver, we need 2 kids, we need a grandfather with a specially trained dog, whatever, and activate. This is why when you look at a place like Sandy Hook, for instance, what on earth is Sandy Hook? Sandy Hook, I can guarantee you, once again, chop off my right arm if I'm wrong, that whole community is one of these places. Every single one there is part of it. Part of it. And I have people, I have close friends who have exposed this whole thing. Jim Fetzer, Professor Jim Fetzer, and Holbigger, whatever his first name is, Walter Holbigger, who's a former police officer, police officers that specialized in security drills for schools and companies. They have completely exposed Sandy Hook, and now they're being taken to court. And Jim Fetzer was sentenced to $450,000, even though it's a super clear case once you start looking into it with open eyes.
Is he going to? Because I mean, I know they had that ridiculous fake lawsuit against Alex Jones, who is obviously...
Yeah, Alex Jones is a completely different story.
Yeah. But Jim Fetzer, is he going to have to pay it, do you think?
I mean, the thing is, it's completely rigged. This is the thing. I said it to Jim also because he was really happy when he was called to court. He said, now I finally get a chance to show. Yeah. I mean, there are 3 different death certificates of one of the kids, Noah Posner, and also he also died in Pakistan. He was not only a victim in Sandy Hook, the very same next year he died in Pakistan, in Peshawar, in a terror attack there. Same photos, same boys, everything like that. But anyway, so Fetzer was very happy. I'm going to take it to court. I'm going to show it. And I said, God, don't do it. Don't do it because, and he went there and it was completely rigged. He wasn't allowed to show anything at all. The father of this boy was not the same person as the father of the boy who appeared in media. They don't even look alike. It's a complete rigged.
Wow.
The whole thing is so not true. I was part of writing a book called Nobody Died at Sandy Hook. It's like 400 pages, something like that. It was the first book banned on Amazon. It's like there's 10 different PhDs and heavyweights, researchers, heavyweight, not in the conspiracy world, but PhDs and forensic and police officers that have written 1 chapter each where they just break the whole thing down. It's absolute not true what we were being told there. And that book was banned by Amazon, first book ever. So we reprinted it and put on the cover a golden star, banned by Amazon. And then we gave it out for free. So it's been available on my website, lightonconspiracies.com. Go to the shop and you cannot download it for free anymore because I left it for free. And then that, because of the payment system was open, they hacked it. My website was completely blown to smithereens through that entry because I put 0. So it didn't go through the paywall. So now I put $5, but it's like $400 of it, or 400 pages of explosive information. Anyone that can read that book and still believe the official narrative, I tell you, please brain activate. Otherwise, there's no hope for you. So,
but I've noticed that there is a kind of, you can present all this information. It's so obvious. It's so clear. I'll give you another example before I give the floor back to you. The Challenger disaster. that all these astronauts who supposedly died in the Challenger disaster have mysteriously emerged looking exactly like older versions of themselves with the same names or very, very similar names in very, very similar jobs. And yet, I mean, this ought to be one of the biggest, because you remember the Challenger disaster. It was quite a big story.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And all these moving tributes and children weeping for their lost teacher and whatever. And people still are capable, most normal people are capable of looking at those pictures and still going, yeah, but it's just a coincidence. So how do you...
It's what can I say? After all of these years that I've been down this rabbit hole, I mean, what are the chances? If you find all 7 of them still alive, I mean, more or less identical names. One of them is his twin brother. He says that he's his twin brother, and he just changed his name from Richard to Dick or something like that. They have more or less identical jobs. I have interviews with the people where they completely avoid answering any questions. But it's like, have some kind of decency, at least change your name or relocate or some. But the thing is, they have no respect for us. I'm not talking about these 7 individuals. They're just players on a low level, just being used or being forced to do it, for some reason. I don't know what the reasons were. But if you see, when the Challenger disaster happened, that one was like a black hole of billions of dollars being pumped in to this project because it failed. So we had to pump even more money. A lot of the money that is pumped into these things are used to black ops around the world. Also, when alleged terror attacks or alleged mass shootings happen, you will see that there are GoFundMe campaigns
Yeah.
that get started, sometimes up to like 60 different GoFundMe campaigns. This money that goes to these victims, when the victims are not real, where does the money go? And I would strongly suggest that it's like a money laundry system of you paying in and the money goes straight back into Black Ops carrying out more of this crap.
There must be, going back to that Dulles thing, there must be places all around the world chock full of people who've been paid off. I mean, you say 6 years. Is that generally what happens? They don't bother giving them a sort of lifetime legend.
The legend is it's when you have a fake identity created out of nowhere. That is a legend. But the 6 years I have in specific cases that I've seen that apparently they were both given 6 years. So I don't know if that is standard or if you just relocate or you get retired or what happens. But sometimes they just move the person out of that location. And then, so you have, for instance, just as an example, there was a 12-year-old girl crushed by a truck in central Stockholm. I mean, horrible, horrible, horrible. Yes, but when you start looking into it, it did not happen the way we were told at all, at all. And these victims were not real victims. I even had doctors look at the footage of these torn bodies. It's not even a real body. There should have been a complete bleed out. She said it's some kind of a rubber dummy type of thing that when you really start looking into it, nothing makes sense. I've done presentations like with great detail. Anyway, the same girl appeared then in a van attack in Toronto, exactly the same girl as a victim. Like Noah Posner from Sandy Hook died in Sandy Hook, officially 6 years old, and then he died again 1 year later in Peshawar, Pakistan, at a mass shooting there. You even have a BBC reporter. I mean, you used to work for the BBC, I think.
Well, she's
okay, but anyway, she's walking in Peshawar in front of a wall where all of the photos of the victims of that alleged mass shooting happened. You got Noah Posner right behind her. She's walking right in front of Noah Posner from Sandy Hook. It's the same photo, the same. So is she aware of it? I would think not. But there is an operation going on, and it was not just that footage, because that photo appeared in many different areas where there were press conferences and so on. So it was not that just randomly or somebody mistook and put a photo there. No, it was part of the operation.
The last time we spoke, I think, was you were talking about the Trump fake assassination, and it was too close to the event for you to have had all the information that you pointed to the inconsistencies and stuff. But I don't think at the time the footage had emerged of you, and I'm sure you've seen this, of the guy who allegedly died, Corey Comparatori, and there's been footage of the fake body being moved in by the teams and stuff. You've seen this one, haven't you?
That I have not seen, but I would love to see.
Oh, you'll love it. You're gonna love this. And
please send it to me.
Somebody, the person who made it has got arrows saying, this guy, he's a place marker. He's designed to be there so that when the camera needs to move in, it's really good. But I've shown this to people. I've done a post about it, and a significant portion of the readership will go, I don't get this. Doesn't look fake to me. The thing is, a guy died, and he was a hero. He was a firefighter. People are so willing to believe the narrative.
But James, I completely understand them. I mean, I have great understanding and compassion for people who are. I mean, we've grown up and we've been told stuff that we believe is true. It's rough when you suddenly start finding out that what the hell are they lying to me? Why would they do that? What on earth? Why? That is just bizarre. Why? And there as well. And there as well. It's a rough ride. But once you start getting into the world of seeing more clearly, I would say. I'm not sort of disrespecting anyone saying it, but once you start seeing that there's some very big discrepancies from a real event and this event, how is that possible if not somebody has set it up? It is a brutal experience to start opening your eyes. I mean, I think you went through something as well like that some years ago, when you came from one way of seeing reality and then suddenly like, holy, what on earth? And then once you start seeing, you cannot unsee. And then it's sort of like, oh my God, and oh my God, oh my God. And then I believe this is what happened to you. You suddenly couldn't live your old life anymore and stand in that thing because you saw this is not right. I need to be truthful. This is not right. I'm part of something that I can't be responsible for. This is not right. And then you go on this journey, and on this journey, what I'm talking about is very extreme, but this is just because I'm sort of like a Formula One driver in this area. So it's like I have great compassion for people who say, "Oh my God, it's too much for me." But I come from the point of saying that the world is a beautiful place, and we are being told that it's absolutely hell, that it's this terrifying place, and we have to be super scared and anxious at all times and fear each other and fear these and this and this, and it's dangerous everywhere. And I would say it's not at all. It's not. It's Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. We pull the curtain and suddenly you see it's not everywhere. It's a small little group of mostly very old, corrupt psychos that are trying to play us.
I tell you one thing, you've made me warm slightly to chemtrails and weather manipulation, because even though obviously it's a bad thing that we no longer get sunny days, hardly ever, at the same time, now I know that on a cloudy day or a rainy day, I'm never going to be killed in a fake terrorist attack.
There you go.
Got to grab our crumbs of comfort where we can. Before we go, I never asked you, and you may not, it may be too obscure for you to even looked into, but I was very skeptical right from the start about the supposed murder of 3 little girls in Southport, which caused loads of rioting, allegedly. Did you look into that at all?
I did, but that exact one very, very little, because there was another one going on in Sydney at the same time. There are these waves of stabbings at them. It's like fashion. You've got truck attacks, and then boom, boom, truck attacks. Then right after truck attacks, you get this propaganda machine about autonomous vehicles, driverless vehicles, problem, reaction, and in comes the solution. Then you have mass shootings in the US, no stabbings whatsoever. Mass shootings, what is the problem? It's the weapons. Take the weapons away from the people. Then in other countries where there are not so many weapons, in the UK and Australia and mostly these 2 countries, it's knives. They want the knives away. They want to be able to search people without any warrant, to just stop you at any time, frisk you and whatever. So there's this wave of knife attacks. Many of them, when you start looking into them, is not the way we're being told. So how can I say that? Well, you had, for instance, if we talk about Sydney, we had at the Westfield shopping center. You look at it's the same setup. These shopping centers that would normally be filled with people are more or less empty, except for the victims and this person, blurry, you can't really see who it is, who's running around with a knife. There's no adrenaline, there's nothing like that, and boom, then he gets killed. Okay, so the Westfield in Sydney was an exact copycat of another one in Copenhagen, NATO, at what shopping center? The Westfield shopping center. Yeah. And so Westfield there. You have other ones that they're working together with. It's a Norwegian owner, and that was in Brussels and in Norway. And it's the same like this. Why shopping centers? Because they're very easy to close off. You close the doors, you say close for repair, or we wash the floors, the whatever, and you just close it off. Nobody noticed, and boom. So was there a drill in Sydney? No. I checked it out with people there. There was no drill, but there was a drill at a Westfield shopping center just west of Sydney. That was a drill, a security drill that had to do with a stabbing. And then the manager of that shopping center just happened to be transferred to that shopping center the day before this attack happened. Are you starting to see some kind of... And then one of the victims was the daughter of this great media personality. Then in England, at the same time, you had somebody being killed with a crossbow. Now they're going to go for everything. Soon it's going to be the forks as well. So there was this crossbow attack where I think it was the daughter and wife of a TV personality,
Yes.
sports personality in the UK. So you got these high level, and here in New Orleans, you have this nanny of Prince Andrew or whatever. You know, like there's these high level names that... What's going on here? The crossbow attack, I loved that one. You look at the photo of the crime scene, there's a crossbow there. You zoom in on the photo, you start looking. It's completely photoshopped. The crossbow is like 3 times bigger than it should be. The curbstone behind it, it doesn't even match. You know, they just try to put it together like that. Doesn't match at all. You check out the number plates, they're handwritten, the number plates, the whole thing. And you got the same person in 2 different places in the same photo from the forensic team. What's going on? Now you had this, was it Christmas Eve, this car that drove into a crowd in London, I believe it was. Same story there. Afterwards, the forensic team. Look at the forensic team. One of them, this white plastic bag type of uniform they have, it goes just below her knees. It's way too short for... It's not the real thing. Then these things are not real. You look at the site itself, no skid marks, no blood, no. The only thing that is left there is like shoes. The shoes is one thing I think we talked about before.
Yeah.
The shoe is like a business card of this operation. There are Nike shoes lying on the site. Like, how often do you drop your Nike trainers? If somebody hits you in the face, do you fall out of your shoes? You do not. I've spoken to people that are normally working with ambulance drivers. I said, how many times have you found empty shoes on a site of an accident? They say only when somebody is being hit by a train, and normally there's a foot in it. You know, trainers do not just fall off, but they're always there. They're always there. But if you like shoes on crime scene, please check out Dayton, Ohio. Look for photos of Dayton, Ohio. There are 24 pairs of trainers, nothing else, in a parking lot, and then cordoned off as a crime scene, and they say a mass shooting. 24 pairs. What happened? What happened to the victims? Did they vaporize? Were they using some kind of, like futuristic kind of gun that just, I don't know, but it's part of these psychological operations. But what they leave is they leave a lot of garbage. They take a garbage bag and they just dump, because we think, oh, something must have happened. There's garbage on the street. And then they leave also medical equipment. You know, the people, the ambulance drivers would never leave like ventilators and stuff like that on the scene. This is expensive equipment. They bring it, they take it with them, and they go back with the victim. No, not at all. And then you see sometimes police, when you have victims and they're covered with black plastic bags, love these ones, because like there was this mass shooting in Moscow not that long ago, and also in Paris they used the same. They're inflated. It's like a balloon, and they get like a body shape, and covered with a plastic bag. So I have photos with somebody walking around with a dead body under his arm, like this, one arm, like that. And also when they lined up all of these 143 dead bodies, they said at this shopping mall, very identical in Moscow, they had lined all of these. There's this guy who just goes and pushes it with his foot, and all of the bodies just move sideways. I mean, really? Have you tried and move? I've only tried people that are not dead but unconscious. They weigh a ton. When somebody is not there, the body weighs a ton. It's not something you can just push with your foot and they just move sideways. A whole long line of them. They're inflated. It's film crap. They also use what is called cadavers, and these are from film shoots, and they just look like dead bodies. So it's like we're looking at an illusion. So often, an illusion of fear.
I wanted to congratulate you, by the way, on this was a very untypical podcast of yours, but it was one of my favorites. The one you did about Elvis.
It's his birthday. No, yesterday was his birthday. His 90th birthday. Wow.
Are you tempted to go over and see him?
I would love to. I mean, I point out so many bad boys and psychos and all of that, but Elvis is a man that I highly respect for his courage, also for his voice. And I mean, this is like God was in a good mood that day when he created that individual, because he seems to be just as beautiful on the inside as his on the outside, and his voice as well. He when I speak to people who are around him, he's adored. He really is soft-spoken, low-key, beautiful, beautiful individual who just celebrated his 90th birthday.
Do you think he genuinely does break the rule that because I mean, I think of everyone in the music industry as being completely compromised, everyone in the public eye of being part of the deception. I mean, okay, so he is deceiving us by pretending he's dead, but you think he's a genuine goodie?
I can't say during his whole career, but I think in the beginning, and I mean, I never met him. I never...
you still can.
But I still can. I would love to go to Benton, Arkansas. His name is Bob Joyce, by the way. And this has taken me many, many years to point him out. And many people are pointing at the same direction. And now it's just about, it seems to more or less explode right now that he's stepping forward. He's fine, so it's just a matter of, I know that Netflix has approached one of his close friends, and Netflix is trying to bribe people to give interviews, but they're so loyal to him. But the thing is, the reason Elvis had to stage his own death, it was not for his own gain or anything like that. It was because he got himself involved in some very dangerous undercover business as a DEA agent, working for the FBI, using his very unique position in society as an entertainer on that level, in Las Vegas also, to expose the mob, especially the Gambino family, the Weatherman, a terrorist organization, and the Black Panthers. And they were super efficient. It was an operation called Operation Fountain Pen. He was also part of exposing an international group of embezzlers called the Fraternity, especially one called Frederick Peter Pro. And he was so efficient in doing that in the end the mob found out that, and they put a contract on his head. And that was in April of 77. He officially died on the 16th of August, 77. And that was when suddenly it got very, very dangerous for him, when his cover was blown. And so this is where they couldn't find a way out, because his daughter, Lisa Marie, Priscilla, his father, Vernon, his friends in the Memphis Mafia, the group, they call themselves the Memphis Mafia, his close friends. And So they came up with this idea to stage his own death. And there was this fan of his who was terminally ill. His name was Roscoe Holloway. who lived in Germantown, not far from Memphis, who was quite a lookalike. He looked a lot like Elvis. He was very proud of his looks, but he was heavy set. He was a lot heavier than Elvis. And his Dr. Nick, Elvis' private doctor, approached him. It was his patient asking him, would you do this for Elvis? And he said, I would love to. I mean, make my death, of value. And so, but the thing was that he was so much heavier that Elvis had to, in just 4 months, stuff himself to gain all of this weight. And that's when you see in 77, he just goes like this. His body is about to explode. And also he used to suffer from insomnia his whole life. I don't know about now, but for many, many years. And also with the pressure of this death threat, because he had to perform on stage in Vegas, right in front of these gangsters very often, so he was very afraid of being popped on stage. I mean, these bad boys, they are willing, they're capable of doing anything like that. So no wonder that he was fumbling and stumbling and also taking a lot of pills at the end,
Right. Poor man having to go on that sort of the diet.
It's a long story. On my website, lightonconspiracies.com. That's my radio voice. Anyway, you can find a recorded webinar where I go into great detail about this whole thing. And also what happened when he died was that instead he went under another, in a witness protection program for the FBI, he went under the identity of John Burroughs, John without an H, John Burroughs, and kept working for the FBI for many years. And then, in the end, in the 90s, he got really depressed and alone, and he was suffering from illnesses, because from being the most loved person in the world and world famous everywhere, now he couldn't even get to know. Can you imagine? It's just horrible. And then he hooked up with his old girlfriend from Germany. He met her in 1959 when he was doing his military service in Germany, and that's Bob Joyce's wife now, if I'm correct, and I tell you, I am. And so this Bob Joyce appeared in around 2011 as a preacher, and he's working out of a small little, it's called the Household of Faith. It's a tiny little church. I think it can take like 150 people. And he's preaching there on a weekly basis. I've got a video from him just a week ago, his sermon, and my God, his voice is still the same. He's just unbelievable. And and like I say, the people around him, there's people coming from everywhere to this little church. It's in Arkansas. It's not it's not in the same state as Graceville. No,
Graceland. Yeah,
Graceland,
that's in Tennessee.
Yeah, in Tennessee. Yeah, but it's only 2.5 hour drive between the two, so it looks apart, but it's not. And and I'm in contact with a close friend of his who's part of this little church, and they love him. They love him. They absolutely love him, adore him. And he says that Elvis has arranged so that the day that he dies, that the truth will be told, but in his words, not in any other words. Because I said, listen, I would be, if I can in any way or shape or form, if he wants to step forward, because he's been trying to step forward several times during his life, but it's backfired. Because I think the idea was not for him to die and go under the radar forever. It was meant to go under the radar until the threat was gone, and then he would appear again. But it just backfired, and he was caught in this lie, to quote his own song, "Caught in a Lie, Suspicious Mind." And so I said, if he would ever consider it, I would be honored to help him step forward. I've helped several other whistleblowers to come up on a sort of like international stage and get their word out there. So this is a man that had to do this thing out of honor, out of bravery, not for his own gain, not on the contrary. And his big interest in life there, it was the gospel, the singing, and law enforcement. So he combined the three, and it completely backfired. So, yeah, honor to him, and happy birthday, Bob. Or should I say Elvis?
Elvis lives. That's a happy end to this
Yay!
podcast.
It
It cheer
is.
everyone up at the end. Ole, as always, absolute pleasure. And remind us again of the name of your website where people can find the Elvis interview and all the the Elvis podcast and all the other things you've done.
Yeah, okay, so it's Dammegard, double M and one A, dammegard.com or lightonconspiracies.com. But if you put Light on Conspiracies on in Google, for instance, it takes you to a site that is called Light on Conspiracies Government Podcast with Ole Dammegard. If you put oledammegard.com, it takes you to a weird, bizarre website in El Paso, Texas. I've been said that I'm one of the most censored people on the internet. I don't know, but it's a bit uphill. So please write in lightonconspiracies.com and search, boom, then you will find it. So there's more than 1,300 interviews there with yours truly, hundreds of podcasts, sofa talks, daylights, you name it, webinars. The thing with Elvis there is a webinar. And also I've got, I think, the world's biggest research vault. It's almost 8 terabytes of perfectly organized hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases, including Elvis. And all of these cases that we told is in that as well. And I'm really asking for people to help me spread this, get this information and keep it safe, because so many things are being deleted on a daily basis right in front of our noses. I tell you, we're talking about this New Orleans thing. In a week or two, when you go back and you say, oh, I remember seeing this, or I see that, or whatever. When you go back, boom, sorry, deleted.
Yeah.
So please send me this thing with the alleged victim in.
I will do. If it hasn't been deleted, I will definitely send you that.
Please do that.
I'm glad to have found something that you haven't seen before. That's brilliant. So thank you.
I just want to say that the very same wooden cross that was used at this firefighter's alleged funeral, we have this it's like 2.5 meter massive on a wheel. You have in the parking lot, there's this guy walking with these photos. You could ask, is this a psyop or is it a normal way of celebrating someone? I have not seen people walking around with a cross like that except for Jesus. And then you have the exact same cross with the exact same wheel, with the exact same padding on the side of the cross at the funeral of the people in not New Orleans, but the other ones where this girl is said, this Natalie Samantha, 15-year-old girl, is said to have killed all of these people. The exact same cross, the exact same person is standing there with that cross. Is that just a coincidence, or could it be part of an operation?
They mock us. They mock us.
It is what it is, but it's just for us to break the spell and say, this is what you can get from me. I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to live in truth, harmony, and be the best version of myself, and love the world and get close. Every time they say social distancing, I say group hugging. Whatever they recommend to you, please look at it from a point of, is it possible that what they say is good for you could be absolutely awful, and what they say is bad for you could be the exact opposite? We live in an inverted reality at the moment.
Before we do your prayer, I like your prayer at the end. But let's just thank all you viewers and listeners for watching this podcast. If you enjoy it, do try and go through the extra trouble. I know it's a hassle. If you can afford it, of supporting me on Substack or Locals. I've noticed they're making it harder. They don't even Substack now is trying to kind of edge people like me, make sure we don't get too many paid subscribers, so they will make it difficult for you. So please make the effort. It's worth it. They're trying to shut voices, like even the supposed neutral people are not really neutral. There's a war on voices like mine and Ole's. So please do your bit in the struggle to support us. Or just buy me a coffee, but then you don't get the early access to my podcasts, and support my sponsors. And thank you, Ollie. Let's finish with your lovely prayer.
My lovely prayer. I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual being, like we all are. And my spiritual teacher, Nelly Chelleram, gave me this prayer, and I absolutely love it. It goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May the light of truth overcome all darkness, so victory to that light. It is, if you're into revenge and you want to kill and hang them high, I don't think it's the way forward. I know it's the easy way forward, but when we go violent, if we go in our words or actions or whatever, it has this tendency to just repeat, just like revolution, it means revolve, come back, and the same again. We have to solve this in a completely different way, and that is to transcend this whole problem, and indirectly also accept absolute no bullshit, make people responsible for their actions, but also come from a point of no violence. That is my way.
You're not a Christian, Ole, but I have to say that prayer has a very Christian message that, forgive your enemies, love your neighbor.
Jesus was a super hacker, if you ask me. He saw through this matrix, and what he said when he said turn the other cheek, he didn't say become a wuss. He was a revolutionary. He was a rebel. He was he sacrificed his life. This is a powerful individual. And he said, forgiveness is the way also. Forgiveness, non-violence. So he was just one master that looked through it. You got Buddha, you got many others. They're saying the same thing, but it's for us to try and live it.
Well, I look forward, as always, to our next chat. By which time I'm sure we'll have accumulated loads more false flags to deconstruct.
But I tell you, James, I really think that we are at a point here where it's beyond. It's time to move above this bullshit. It's sort of like I've warned so many people have learned also to look through these operations. The thing is, it's being carried out. It's losing power all the time. People are not getting afraid in the same way anymore. And fear is the only thing they have. If we're not fearful, it's like they have no power over us at all. So right now, I'm not so focused on what is going on out there. I'm more focused on keeping my inner balance and preparing also for, there's going to be some rough times ahead, I think. And then at that time, it's very important for some of us to be able to stand stable and in balance and hold each other's hand and lead people through this time of confusion, because it is going to be a confusing time, and things are speeding up I think very fast. It's going to, like hold on to your hat and horses. It's going to be like, whoa.
I'll definitely hold on to my hat and my horses. Ole, thank you. I'm going to have my breakfast now, and you can go and have your supper, I imagine, or something.
Something like that. I'm in the future, by the way.
Thanks very much. Been great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello, this is a quick shout out for my friend Lorraine Tolmie. She's a Delingpod listener, and she's doing her PhD thesis at Abertay University in Dundee, and her speciality is counselling and physiotherapy. And she's trying to appeal to people who've had an awakening or spiritual experience, which I think probably means most of you. But she wants to know, those of you who've been so moved by your experience, or so discombobulated that you've been to see a therapist about it, and she wants to know, has the therapy experience been helpful or unhelpful? Did they say you're a nutcase, for example, or did they actually understand your problem? She says most people who go through these types of experiences have an intuitive sense that they are experiencing a transformative process. And she says, would you be willing to share the call for participants on your podcast or social media? Well, yes, I would. And what she wants you to do is to get in touch with her, and then she'll make you fill a questionnaire, and then she'll recruit people from an advisory group. Anyway, I'll give you the details below, but in the show notes. But essentially, can you help Lorraine research her PhD on people who've awakened and or had a spiritual experience and then sought counselling or therapy? Has it been helpful or not? Good luck with your PhD, Lorraine. Global warming is a massive con. There is no evidence whatsoever that man-made climate change is a problem, that it's going to kill us, that we need to amend our lifestyle in order to deal with it. It's a non-existent problem. But how do you explain this stuff to your normie friends? Well, I've just brought out the revised edition to my 2012 classic book, Watermelons, which captures the story of how some really nasty people decided to invent the global warming scare in order to fleece you, to take away your freedoms, to take away your land. It's a shocking story. I wrote it, as I say, in 2011 actually. The first edition came out, and it's a snapshot of a particular era, the era when the people behind the climate change scam got caught red-handed, tinkering with the data, torturing till it screamed, in a scandal that I helped christen ClimateGate. So I give you the background to the skullduggery that went on in these seats of learning where these supposed experts were informing us, we've got to act now. I rumbled their scam. I then asked the question, okay, if it is a scam, who's doing this and why? It's a good story. I've kept the original book pretty much as is, but I've written 2 new chapters, one at the beginning and one at the end, explaining how it's even worse than we thought. I think it still stands up. I think it's a good read. Obviously I'm biased, but I'd recommend it. You can buy it from jamesdelingpole.co.uk/shop. You'll probably find that just go to my website and look for it, jamesdelingpole.co.uk. And I hope it helps keep you informed and gives you the material you need to bring round all those people who are still persuaded that, oh, it's a disaster, we must amend our ways and appease the gods, appease Mother Gaia. No, we don't. It's a scam.